The WNBA was not prepared for the bombshell Caitlin Clark dropped when she announced her decision to sign a contract in Europe. For the fans in basketball world, it was a jaw-dropper. For the WNBA, it was a headache wrapped in disbelief. How could the brightest college star, the one many saw as the future face of American women's basketball, bypass the league to play overseas? To say the league threw a fit might be putting it lightly. The response from executives, players, and media commentators alike was instant and intense. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Caitlin Clark, fresh off a remarkable college career, had long been expected to make her grand debut in the WNBA. She had it all: the killer jump shot, the poise under pressure, and the kind of confidence that made her not only a dominant player but a compelling personality on and off the court. She had led Iowa to heights it hadn't seen in years, and her three-point range had drawn comparisons to Steph Curry, a comparison not thrown around lightly. The WNBA was practically salivating at the idea of Clark in one of their jerseys. Yet when she revealed she'd signed a contract with a European team instead, the WNBA scrambled to make sense of it. The shock wasn't just about the decision itself, but the reasons behind it. Clark had hinted at wanting to experience life outside the U.S., to immerse herself in a different culture, and to challenge herself in ways that playing in the WNBA couldn't provide at the moment. In other words, it wasn't a dig at the league, but a personal choice, a curveball no one saw coming. Europe has always been an attractive option for women's basketball players due to better financial incentives and greater opportunities to grow as athletes, but the WNBA was banking on Clark to bring a fresh wave of attention, especially with younger fans. Her decision felt like a wrench in the league's carefully laid plans. The reaction from WNBA execs was, to put it mildly, not graceful. Rumblings of frustration quickly made their way into the public eye, with a few anonymous sources implying Clark had let down her fans, and by extension the league. It wasn't just about one player. Clark had the potential to elevate the visibility of the WNBA during a time when it was fighting for greater viewership and relevance. A player of her caliber skipping out felt like a missed opportunity, a lost ticket to bigger TV deals and more lucrative sponsorships. But for Clark, it wasn't about the WNBA's plans. It was about what made sense for her career and her growth as a player. While the league was busy throwing its proverbial fit, Clark herself seemed unbothered, displaying the same cool demeanor she had on the court. She had become accustomed to pressure, to criticism, to being in the spotlight, and her announcement had the same straightforward, almost nonchalant style she was known for. When reporters asked about the WNBA's disappointment, she didn't take the bait. Instead, she talked about her excitement for the next chapter, about how Europe offered her something different, a new challenge, a different style of play, and the chance to grow not just as a player, but as a person. The players, for their part, were divided. Some veterans who had spent time overseas before the WNBA became their primary home were supportive of Clark's decision. They knew firsthand the allure of European basketball, the bigger checks, the rabid fan bases, the intense competition. It wasn't just about money, it was about respect. For years, many of the top women's basketball players had to supplement their WNBA salaries with contracts from European teams just to make a living wage, and for some, it was a way to command the respect they didn't always feel they received in the U.S. But for others, especially younger WNBA players who had chosen to stay stateside, Clark's decision seemed like a snub. There was a sense of betrayal, as though she had chosen glamour and adventure over loyalty to the league that had been eagerly waiting for her arrival. Clark, however, had always been a bit of an enigma, marching to the beat of her own drum. Those close to her were not surprised by her decision. They knew Clark wasn't someone to be swayed by expectations or traditional paths. She had carved out her own lane in college, and now she was doing the same in her professional career. The media, of course, had a field day. For weeks, the sports pages were filled with opinions on Clark's decision, some praising her for being bold, for taking control of her narrative, while others bemoaned what they saw as a slight to American women's basketball. There were endless debates on talk shows and podcasts about whether her choice would signal a trend for other young players. Was Europe becoming more attractive than the WNBA for the top talent? Could this lead to a bigger exodus in the future? Everyone had an opinion, but Clark herself remained mostly quiet on the subject, her focus squarely on preparing for her new adventure overseas. If there was one undeniable fact about Clark, it was that she thrived on challenges. Whether she was draining threes from the logo or driving into traffic for a contested layup, she never shied away from a test. Europe offered her something the WNBA couldn't, at least not yet. The international stage came with its own set of hurdles, and for someone like Clark, that was part of the draw. The allure of unfamiliar arenas, foreign crowds, and the chance to test herself against a different style of basketball was something she couldn't pass up. Her signing sent shockwaves through the WNBA office, but it also caused some serious reflection. How had they let this happen? The league had worked tirelessly to position itself as the premier destination for women's basketball, and yet one of its biggest stars had chosen elsewhere. There was an unspoken question lingering in the air. Had they done enough to keep her? Was there something more they could have offered? The answers were complex, but it was clear that Clark's decision was a wake-up call, a reminder that the WNBA still had work to do to not only attract but retain its top talent. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. Caitlin Clark's decision wasn't just about basketball. It was about a player taking charge of her career, about making a choice that felt right for her, regardless of what others expected. For years, the WNBA had fought to create an environment where women's basketball was respected, where players didn't feel the need to supplement their careers by playing overseas. But Clark's move reminded everyone that the path to success, especially for women athletes, is rarely straightforward. The world is bigger than one league, one country, or one set of expectations, and Clark was determined to explore it all on her terms. The WNBA's reaction, though emotional and understandable, underscored a larger issue at play. The league, though growing, still faces challenges in keeping its brightest stars from seeking opportunities elsewhere. Whether it's paid exposure or simply the desire to experience something new, players have options. Clark just happened to make a very public choice to exercise hers. And as much as the WNBA might have thrown a fit, the league had no choice but to respect her decision, even if it left them scrambling to figure out what went wrong. For Caitlin Clark, the future in Europe was bright. She was joining a team where she would undoubtedly be one of the top players, and she relished the chance to compete on a different stage. European fans were eager to see what she could do, and there was no doubt she would bring the same fire and flair to her new team that had made her a household name in the U.S. Her personality, her game, and her undeniable talent would no doubt translate across borders, and as much as the WNBA wanted her, Europe now had the privilege of watching her magic up close. As Clark embarked on this new chapter, the WNBA was left to reckon with the reality of a rapidly shifting landscape. The league would move on, of course, as leagues always do, but there would always be that lingering what if. What if they had done more to keep her? What if Clark had stayed? What impact could she have had on the league's growth, on inspiring the next generation of players and fans? These questions would hover in the background, even as the league found new stars to promote, new players to rally around. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.